What if I told you the most feared pirates in history weren't all bearded men with parrots and eye patches? Some were elegant, some were ruthless, some rewrote the rules of power at sea. And it all begins with a man they called the Robin Hood of the sea, a pirate who didn't just steal gold. He stole hearts. They called him Black Sam for the jet black hair he wore tied back in a sailor's queue. He was young, charismatic, handsome, and unlike most pirates, he didn't wear a powdered wig. No, Samuel Bellamy believed in freedom, even for his hair. But Bellamy wasn't born into piracy. He was born into poverty in Devonshire, an orphan, a boy with nothing, except a thirst for the sea and a dream that burned hotter than any cannon. His story truly begins in Massachusetts, where he fell in love with a local girl, Maria Hallett. Some say she was the daughter of a rich landowner. Others claim she was a simple village girl. But all stories agree on one thing. Sam promised he would return with riches beyond imagination. So he set sail, not to trade, not to explore, but to become a pirate. He joined the crew of the infamous Benjamin Hornigold, sailing with none other than a young Edward Teach, soon to be known as Blackbeard. But Sam Bellamy wasn't content to play second fiddle. He broke off with a handful of men and captured a small sloop. His charm and eloquence earned him the nickname the Pirate Prince. But don't let the name fool you. He was as daring as they come. Bellamy believed in treating his crew with equality and respect, an almost alien concept among pirates. He let his men vote on decisions, split treasure fairly, and even punished those who mistreated prisoners. His greatest prize came in 1717. The Whydah Galley, a 300-ton slave ship armed with 18 cannons, freshly loaded with gold, ivory, and rum. It was a floating fortress, and it became Bellamy's flagship. With the Whydah at his back, Bellamy's legend grew. He plundered dozens of vessels along the Atlantic coast, always with a strange code of honor. Some merchants were left unharmed, but fate had other plans. In April of 1717, while trying to return to Maria in Cape Cod, the Whydah was caught in a violent nor'easter. The sea, which had once lifted him to glory, dragged him down to the depths. Bellamy and over 140 of his men drowned. The wreck was lost for over 2 centuries, until it was discovered in 1984 with gold still inside. His body was never found, and neither was the future he promised the girl he left behind. If Samuel Bellamy was the Prince of Pirates, and Bonnie and Mary Red were the twin tempests of the sea, and unlike the ballads and bedtime tales, their story isn't one of romance. It's one of rage, of rebellion. Let's start with Bonnie. Born in Ireland in the late 1600s, she was the illegitimate daughter of a wealthy lawyer. Her father dressed her as a boy to hide the scandal. But even after the truth came out and the family fled to the Carolinas and never went back to being proper, she was fiery, stubborn, and drawn to danger. When she was just a teenager, she married a pirate named James Bonny and sailed off to the Bahamas. But her taste for chaos only grew. In Nassau, she met a man who changed her life forever. Calico Jack Rackham, a smooth-talking pirate with flash, flair, and a crew of cutthroats. But wasn't content to be a pirate's lover. She disguised herself as a man, took up arms, and joined the crew. And that's where she met Mary Red. Mary had her own stormy past. Born in England, raised as a boy by her widowed mother to fool the family into continuing support, Mary lived most of her early life as a male. She joined the British military, fought in wars, and only revealed her true identity when she fell in love with a fellow soldier. But tragedy followed her like a shadow. Her husband died. She boarded a ship for the New World. It was captured by pirates, and rather than resist, Mary joined them. On board Calico Jack's ship, the two women formed an alliance that terrified their enemies. Both disguised as men, at first, but it wasn't long before the truth was known. And Mary weren't pretending anymore. They dressed as women. They fought like demons. Witnesses said they were more ruthless than most of the men, cursing, slashing, and shooting with wild fury. But glory doesn't last forever. In 1720, the British Navy caught up with Calico Jack's crew. He and the drunken men were too slow to react. Only and Mary fought to the end, the only two resisting arrest, guns blazing, even as the rest cowered below decks. They were captured and sentenced to hang. But both claimed to be pregnant, and the court delayed the execution. Mary died in prison, likely of illness, and simply vanished. No one knows if she died in that cell, escaped, or started a new life under a false name. What's certain is this: they weren't pirates by accident. They were pirates by choice. But if you thought Anne and Mary were fierce, wait until you meet a man who didn't just break the rules of piracy. He rewrote them. With silk on his back and blood on his hands, he became the most successful pirate in history. Let's talk about Bartholomew Roberts, Black Bart. He didn't drink rum. He didn't swear like a sailor. And he didn't start out as a pirate. But Bartholomew Roberts became the most successful pirate the world has ever seen. Not through chaos, but through calculation. Born in Wales in 1682, Roberts was a quiet, well-dressed man, a teetotaler, a lover of music, and a navigator by trade. He served aboard a merchant ship, and when that vessel was captured by pirates off the coast of Africa in 1719, Roberts was forced into their crew. He didn't resist, but no one expected what happened next. When the pirate captain was killed in an ambush, the crew voted on a replacement. And within weeks of his capture, Roberts was chosen as captain. Why? Because he was smart. He was composed. And most importantly, he had vision. Roberts transformed piracy into a deadly business model. He developed a strict code of conduct for his men. No gambling, no women on board. Lights out by 8 p.m. He dressed like royalty, often in a rich crimson waistcoat and a feathered hat, wearing a gold chain and carrying 2 pistols crossed on his chest. But don't mistake elegance for mercy. Roberts had no patience for traitors or cowards. If you resisted, your ship was burned. Your crew, slaughtered or marooned. If you surrendered quickly, you might be spared, maybe, and his success was staggering. In just 3 years, he captured over 400 ships. His terror extended from the West Indies to West Africa and even up to Canada. He mocked European navies, defeated warships, and even once forced an entire harbor to ransom. But even legends have limits. In 1722, the British finally caught up. Off the coast of Gabon, HMS Swallow attacked his ship. Roberts was dressed in fine clothes, sipping tea, when a cannonball tore through the deck and killed him instantly. His men, following his wishes, buried him at sea, wrapped in the ship's sails with his weapons by his side. No trial, no hanging. He simply vanished beneath the waves. There was one pirate who didn't command dozens of ships. She commanded hundreds. Meet Qing Shi, the pirate queen who brought entire navies to their knees. She didn't inherit her power. She took it, and not with brute force, but with something far more dangerous: strategy. Born in 1775 in Canton, China, Qing Shi began life far from the sea. She worked in a floating brothel, a courtesan aboard the ships of the Pearl River Delta. In 1801, she caught the attention of Zheng Yi, a notorious pirate commander of the powerful Red Flag Fleet. He married her, and within a few short years, she wasn't just his wife. She was his partner. But fate intervened. When Zheng Yi died unexpectedly during a storm, the pirate world waited for the fleet to collapse. Instead, Qing Shi stepped forward. She didn't ask for loyalty. She demanded it. She secured control of over 300 ships and more than 70,000 pirates, including men, women, and even children. To compare, Blackbeard had maybe 4 ships at his peak. Qing Shi, she had a navy. Her secret? Ruthless discipline. She issued a strict pirate code. All plunder was to be registered and fairly distributed. Rape of female captives? Punishable by death. Disobedience? Death. Desertion? Death. Theft from the common stash? You guessed it, death. But her ferocity was matched by her political cunning. As the Qing dynasty scrambled to stop her, she crushed them in battle. The Portuguese navy? Defeated. British gunboats? Outmaneuvered. She humiliated 3 empires on open water. But here's the twist. She retired. Peacefully. In 1810, after years of dominance, She negotiated a pardon for herself and all of her pirates. She turned in just a portion of her fleet and kept her riches. She lived to old age, running a gambling house and raising her children. She died in 1844, a wealthy, powerful woman, untouched by the law. No pirate in history matched her combination of discipline, domination, and diplomacy. It's time to meet the one and only Blackbeard. He was the face of every pirate nightmare, a monster draped in smoke, steel, and shadow. But Blackbeard wasn't born a demon. He became one deliberately. Edward Teach was likely born in Bristol, England, around 1680. A tall man with broad shoulders and dark eyes. He joined privateering ships during the War of Spanish Succession, attacking French and Spanish vessels with the crown's blessing. But when the war ended, so did his allegiance to any flag. He joined the crew of the infamous Benjamin Hornigold. Yes, the same man who once sailed with young Samuel Bellamy. But Teach stood out. He was brave, brutal, and had a taste for performance. By 1717, he had captured a massive French slave ship, renamed it the Queen Anne's Revenge, and equipped it with 40 cannons. He was no longer Edward Teach. He was Blackbeard, and he played the part with terrifying precision. Before battle, he would tie slow-burning fuses into his massive black beard and light them. Smoke curled around his face like a demon rising from a pit. He strapped pistols across his chest and carried a cutlass longer than most men's arms. He didn't need to fight. His image alone froze men in fear. In one infamous episode, he blockaded the port of Charleston, South Carolina, holding the city hostage until his demands were met. Not for gold, but for medicine. Then, as suddenly as he arrived, he vanished. He was a master of intimidation, but not cruelty. Many sailors reported that Blackbeard rarely harmed those who surrendered. Still, he was a wanted man. Eventually, he accepted a royal pardon, but went back to piracy soon after. The governor of Virginia, furious at his betrayal, sent a British naval officer, Lieutenant Robert Maynard, to hunt him down. The trap was set. In November 1718, Maynard's ships caught up with Blackbeard near Ocracoke Island in North Carolina. What followed was one of the most brutal ship-to-ship battles in pirate history. Blackbeard charged into battle like a beast. He was shot 5 times, stabbed over 20, and still fought until his final breath. When it was over, Maynard severed his head and hung it from the bow of his ship. His body was dumped into the sea, but legend says it swam around the boat 3 times before sinking. Blackbeard wasn't just a pirate. He was myth made flesh. He showed the world that fear could be a weapon just as sharp as any sword.